Politics, a divisive issue for some and a boring issue for others. But regardless of how you feel on the issue or how you align on the political spectrum, we can all agree that politics plays an important role on each and one of our lives. Beyond this, I have found an interest in both local and national politics and the effect that they have played on Americans' lives. In the summer of 2020, a few months after the COVID pandemic had entered our lives, there was not much for people to do. After seeing another person at my school post a social media graphic online, I decided that I too would join a county-wide campaign as an intern. This was something a little out of my comfort zone, and this was my first internship. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. We've all seen this go down on movies and TV shows, and I'm sure many of us have received phone calls from campaigns. In fact, I may have been one of the people that have called you. And also, in fact, you may have hung up on me. But trust me, you weren't the only one. And I don't blame you. People dread election years. It's the ads, the donation asks, the door signs, signs on people's lawns, and of course, the phone calls. The dreaded phone calls. You either get one or you get 7. I promise there's never an in-between. But I'm with you on that because I dread election years as well, and I can't even vote yet. It's the slander, the allegations, the lies, and the unkept promises. And I could go on and on all night, but what does rambling about what's wrong with our system have? Well, we can't fix a problem just by complaining. Instead, we need to start thinking for ourselves. Now, I'm sure you're dreading a speech about politics, but this is more about a way to better our political system. I've not only noticed things going wrong with our political systems, but I've experienced it firsthand as well. So first, what's most important to you? One of the most important factors in strengthening our democracy and increasing political participation is to ask yourself, what is most important to me? Politicians of all sorts play a role in each one of our lives each and every day. So it may sound like I'm trying to start to sway you towards one side or the other, but trust me, that is not my goal. I'm not even asking you to re-examine where you stand, but instead, just look a little deeper into the issues that impact you and what's most important to you. If you're Republican or Democrat, it's very likely you do not align side to side with everyone on the exact same issues. And it's important to take a step back and ask, what is really important to me? What's the most important to me? How will this politician's policies play a role in my life? As I stated earlier, each of these politicians plays a role in our lives, and this ranges from the president, to the governor, to the state's attorney, to the legislature, to the school board. So now we need to take a step back and assess it all. And it's common that people vote just on party lines, but sometimes, as we've seen in recent years, some people are not a fan of the politicians running just for their party. So this causes them to vote for the person who is less worse between the two. This could be stopped earlier, though. We could stop this earlier. We just need to better assess what's most important to us. Voting has turned into a game, commonly a name game, and again, we have the ability to stop this just by taking a step back, taking a deeper look, and assessing who best aligns with our own ideologies. Now, as a kid, it is very common to follow the footsteps of your parents in terms of political ideology. This does not always have to be the case. No people will have the exact same standpoint on each and every issue. That's why it is so important for us to look at what impacts us individually and collectively, and who can address these issues best. Along with this, we don't have to vote for the same party every time. For example, during the presidential election, we have swing states or battleground states that have the chance to go to either candidate. States that would not be swing states are Utah, Montana, California, and New York, since they tend to be pretty predictable. On the other hand, though, states like Iowa, Michigan, and Nevada are commonly swing states. So what's stopping someone from being a swing voter? Why can't we change up who we vote for because we like one person more than the other, even though they don't align with our party? Well, there is no reason we can't, and I'm not saying that we cannot stick to one party, given that many people do, but we do have the ability to vote for anybody we want. So a way that I was able to get involved, someone who is not allowed to vote yet, was to learn more about the political process through my work in 2 campaigns. In the first, I was in more of a general role. The candidate was running to be the county prosecutor, and I figured this would be a pretty smooth process, an entry way for me to get a surface-level understanding into what politics and campaigning is really like. But this was anything but that. The incumbent at the time, Brian Mackey, had announced that he would be retiring from his office. Generally, especially at the more local level, an incumbent is unlikely to lose to a challenger. In fact, about 90% of incumbents win their re-election bid. So if Mr. Mackey had chosen to stay in office, we would have likely had an unsuccessful outcome. I mean, in this sort of election, the most we could have done would be to get our name out there. But instead, with the office holder announcing that he would be retiring, the candidates were all hungry. All three candidates were hungry, all battling for one open seat. Now, fortunately, there was no slander like what you would see on the national level, but the amount of voter contact that took place was more than I would have ever expected. Now, how can you get involved? One way, and probably the easiest way for any American to get involved, would be to show up to the polls, cast your vote, and slap the I voted sticker across your shirt. But this isn't even happening right now. In the last general election held here in Washtenaw County in 2020, only 68% of registered voters had chosen to cast their ballots. This means that out of everybody who could vote, only 68% of eligible voters chose to do so. This was also a year when voting became easier than ever. Ballots could be sent directly to you at your home, you could mail it back, you could vote early in person, and you still had the option to vote early, or at the polls. Now, these numbers are not bad, given that Washtenaw County tends to be slightly higher than the national average, but these numbers are still alarming. In 2016, the voter turnout in Washtenaw County was just 2% less, and it was easier than ever in 2020, yet we only had 2% more voters show up to the polls. Along with this comes another problem. Those who are showing up with incomplete ballots. Now, no one is obligated or required to fill out every section of the ballot to cast their vote, but no one's obligated to vote in general, yet people still choose to do so. So therefore, we should not choose to avoid it. For instance, if someone decides not to vote in the school board election just because they may not have kids in the school, that doesn't mean that the school board does not affect them. The board has a role in deciding how funds across a district will be dispersed, and a portion of these funds come from the public and taxes. So these do impact our lives. Once we are able to look at the issues and decide which are most important to us, it is important for us to get out and vote. If you're feeling like this is how you can get involved, well, we have an election coming up this year, so be sure to show up to the polls. But some people may be looking to get involved in other ways too. You can go down the path I did. I chose to get involved with an internship. I was able to learn a lot, spread a message, and encourage people to vote. I was also able to educate voters about a candidate who they may not have known, so that these other issues that they may not have known about were presented to the public. A larger way you can also get involved is to run for office. When looking at policy standpoints, you may notice that you cannot find someone who really represents you or your beliefs. There is always an opportunity for someone to make change, in fact, some of the most change, by running for office. Even if you are not elected, you could still be shining light on new issues and open people's eyes to a new perspective. Again, this is a very big thing to do. It's not for everyone, but it is another option for people to get involved across the country. So first, I would like to thank you for listening to me today. And as I stated, it's quite dreadful during political season, so I'm sure this is not the most appealing speech right now. But I hope you are able to look from a new point of view. Be sure to take a step back, ask yourself what's the most important factors to you, but most importantly, get involved. Thank you.